Friday, January 1st, 2016. Derek Davis here with Rob Vino and sportsbettingtoday.us and Rob Vino Sports. Rob, 5 games on the college football card today. Let's go here with game 265, 266, Florida and Michigan. Michigan -4 and 39.5 in this one. Game opened with Michigan -4 as well, but with a total of 41.5. This game has a 1 p.m. kickoff from Orlando, Florida, 1 p.m. Eastern. From Orlando, Florida, the Citrus Bowl, Rob, where some forecasts were calling for rain in the area. Doesn't look like that at all. Partly cloudy, high 70s, light winds, 5 to 6 southwest. Rob, there's quite a bit of respect here for a Florida team who offensively has really barely shown a pulse. Since quarterback Will Grier was declared ineligible, it has put a lot of stress on the Florida defense. They seem to be out there for quite a bit of the game. Florida losers, two of their last 3 straight up, Rob. 1 and 2 against the number coming into this one. Michigan had been playing pretty good football, Rob, before getting pounded by Ohio State. But Jim Harbaugh's teams have really responded well off of a loss this year. After getting beat by Utah to start the season, they rattled off 5 wins in a row, rather. And then after getting beat by Michigan State in that crazy ending with the punt, they then rattled off 4 in a row. And then here comes the Ohio State loss. But Florida has speed and athletes galore that Michigan really hasn't seen. Rob, I guess the question on everyone's mind is, can Florida score enough points to keep this one interesting?
Well, this one, Derek, it's got mirror image written all over it. I mean, you might want to give Michigan a slight edge on the offensive side of the football, but if you give them a slight edge on the offensive side of the football, I might have to give a slight edge to Florida on the defensive side, even though they're both extremely tough, extremely rugged. I think that Florida, from a cornerback's standpoint and the ability to cover man to man, led by Vernon Hargraves III, I think the Florida secondary better than Michigan, despite the fact that Jabril Peppers is a great player. I think that Florida, more experienced back, I'd give them the slight edge defensively. But you're talking about 2 teams that are pedestrian on offense, built right now for defense. Jim Harbaugh, first-year head coach, trying to establish power football, NFL-style football, the way he did at Stanford with Michigan in a very successful year for the Michigan Wolverines. May have been and probably would have been in an even better bowl game had it not been for the mishap on the last play of the game against Michigan State. So it's been a great year for Michigan. Other side of the coin, first-year head coach Jim McElwain for Florida comes in, really had some things rolling with Will Grier at quarterback. Then, of course, the PED debacle, which left Florida without Will Grier as a quarterback for the rest of the season. He's subsequently transferred. They haven't been very steady on offense, been choppy at best, but still do have some legitimate explosiveness in that offense. Kelvin Taylor, the running back situation is good there. Got some deep threats as far as the passing game is concerned. We did see that against Alabama late in the game to get the late cover in the SEC championship. Special teams punt return we saw. And of course for Michigan, you can make the same case because Peppers is an all-around athlete, and it was questionable as to whether or not Jabril Peppers would play in this football game here today. And without him, it would be a huge, huge loss for the Michigan Wolverines. However, he's probable, and I'd expect him to go here. I don't think there's going to be any problem with Peppers in this contest. So what I see here is, again, what really, for me, Derek, boiled down to be the simplest handicap of any of the New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, January 2nd bowl games, because these 2 teams, in my estimation, are extremely equal. I think you might have one intangible advantage towards the Florida Gators here, and it's somewhat dulled by the fact that Jim Harbaugh is now the head coach at Michigan. But let's not forget that Florida's offensive coordinator, Doug Nussmeier, was the offensive coordinator at Michigan last year. Now, he doesn't know the offense because, he was the offensive coordinator for Brady Hoke, and now you have Jim Harbaugh, two completely different offenses, but he knows the personnel on Michigan inside and out. If there's a weakness in that offensive personnel that Florida can attack defensively, he knows it. They'll exploit it. I think that's it's not as big of an edge as it would have been had Brady Hoke still been the coach at Michigan, and Nussmeier could give away some secrets. But I do think knowing the personnel helps there. As I was starting to say here, it was the simplest handicap of all for me personally, because I think they're two mirror image teams. In that case, it's a mechanical knee-jerk reaction to like the points. Florida's getting over a field goal here. Some 4.5s creeping around out there. Plus 4.5. The game is in Orlando. Florida's probably, and not probably, they are much more used to the heat than is Michigan, although Michigan obviously recruits nationwide, but still, if there's a team that's going to be a little bit heat fatigued in the fourth quarter, it would be Michigan. Like I say, boils down to simple mechanical knee-jerk reaction. Two teams that you can't separate with a sheet of paper. Plus 4.5 have to go that way. I think one last thing to consider here is that, Florida, the last sighting we have of them is losing to Alabama in the SEC championship game, but they did get the cover in that one, snuck under the number. We saw what Alabama did to Michigan State last night. And Michigan, the last time we saw them, they were getting absolutely thumped by 29 points by Ohio State in a game that Jim Harbaugh, as a first-year head coach, obviously had circled. Not winning the Ohio State game gets Michigan coaches fired. He comes in first year, having a great year, ready to roll for that Ohio State game. Boom, lose by 29. I think I'm giving a slight edge here to Florida, plus the 4.5. This total's been hit pretty hard from 41.5 down to 39.5. You can understand why people would play this one under. You got two defenses that are the dominant units on the field. For me, lean toward Florida plus the 4. 4.5, if you can get it, is outstanding.